Happy Christmas Eve, everybody, or Merry Christmas to all of you that is in Europe, or if you're watching this a couple of hours after I upload it, Merry Christmas to the East Coast or in the West Coast if you're really watching this very early in the morning. But today, on this Christmas Eve, I am going to do a News of the Week episode because, after all, it is Saturday and I'm trying to keep up with the time frame. Though I will say that I'll probably won't release a News of the Week episode on a Wednesday because I know during the Christmas time the news cycle does die down a little bit because of it. But one thing that did not die down is in terms of the transfer that we saw in these past couple of days. But first of all, it is official. NYCFC have traded midfielder Maxi Moralez to Racing Club. So we talked about this before a couple of episodes ago in the News of the Week. That seems like he's going to be going back to his native country, Argentina, and getting back to the team that he started his career in. That it seems like that now officially that is going to be the case. And well, it's definitely sad for NYCFC to let go of a such a legend that they are, and that, you know, there's no doubt that when they do eventually get that stadium in a couple of years, I gotta say they have to build a Maxi Moralez statue. I mean, I know in terms of his tenure with NYCFC, it's not as long as some of the players that we've seen before that deserve a statue, but you got to say that he has just been everything for this NYCFC team for the past couple of years. And it's also great to see that at least he won an MLS Cup, because for a long time, you know, as great as he is, and he's definitely going to be considered right up there in terms of the best number 10s we have ever seen in this league history, he was never able to get it done. But, you know, he was finally able to get it done in the 2021 season, and I just kind of had a feeling that eventually he was going to potentially either decide to hang up his boots or maybe return to his boyhood club, which is exactly what he does. But obviously NYCFC will never forget him, and that, yeah, he's definitely going to be a guy that NYCFC fans will mention 10 years down the line, of such a legendary midfielder, not only for their club, but also in MLS for the past couple of years. Now, St. Louis, they have signed South African midfielder, and I believe it's Jabolo Bloom from Kaiser Chief FC. Again, you know, those South African names, it's not very easy to pronounce. It took me a while to pronounce the Loons winger Bukwanli Huwane in terms of his name, and still I don't think I got it completely right there. But I also have noticed that there has definitely been a bit of a South African import in MLS, where we have definitely seen some more South African players that have come into MLS, and we've seen pretty much in its league existence for the past couple of years. Obviously, I mentioned, you know, Huwane is one of the more notable guy, and I think FC Dallas also have a South African player. I forgot what exactly his name was, but yeah, this is going to be interesting to see whether, of course, it work out. And, you know, he does come from a very recognizable club, Kaiser Chief FC, obviously one of the big club in South African soccer, alongside with the Orlando Pirates. But yeah, we'll see whether if he can be a decent player, and especially the fact that he's also a very young player, only 23 years old. We'll see whether or not if he can get into the starting 11, and maybe even show some good potential that that I've heard that he could definitely be now that he's have joined the expansion team. Speaking of St. Louis, they actually did something that is very unorthodox, and I think this is probably the first time in at least for my most recent memory of the Super Draft, that I have not seen a number 1 draft pick that has been traded on draft day. I mean, for the past couple of years, the number 1 draft pick has always been the expansion team, or in some cases it's usually the team with the worst record. But because of the fact that there's been like an expansion team coming into MLS every single year, that's basically how it is, and this year, of course, is no exception. But what is an exception is the fact that St. Louis decided not to use that number 1 pick. They decided to trade that number 1 pick to Charlotte FC for 400,000 GAM, and Charlotte used that number 1 pick to select Hamady Diop from Clemson University. Now, another unorthodox pick, I will say, is that number 1 pick is selected for a defender, because for the past couple of years, I've always seen that number 1 pick being selected as a midfielder or an attacking midfielder. So it's kind of a little unorthodox. Charlotte decided to select him as a defender, and not to mention, you know, according to the mock draft that MLS tends to like to do, he was actually not in their top 10 list. Though again, those mock draft that MLS does, you got to take it as a grain of salt with the way that they don't really have the most accurate kind of information. So yeah, we'll see whether if he of course do well, and that, you know, the #1 draft pick for the past couple of years, it's been kind of a hit and miss. There's been some notable #1 draft pick. I mean, Frank Kiamaya is probably the most recognizable one in recent memory, but we also have seen some very bad #1 pick. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Minnesota. I will never forget the Loons decided to get Abu Danladi as their #1 pick, and that, well, it definitely did work out in the first year when Danladi was playing for the Loons in the expansion year. Yeah, let's not talk about what happened for the rest of his time, especially doing his second stint with Minnesota United. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if Hamidou Diop will work out for the Charlotte team, and especially adding some more depth, or even starting kind of experience in that back line for Charlotte. But moving on into the next news. Speaking of back line, the Columbus Crew have signed another defender, this time signing Jimmy Medranda off as a free agency. Now, I remember Jimmy Medranda doing his time with Seattle. He was definitely a great player, and in some ways that it was kind of interesting, the fact that you know, I think it was Nashville the one that decided to let him go to the Seattle Sounders, and yeah, I think Nashville probably maybe regretting that, because Medranda had a really good year doing his first year with the Sounders, but then last year injuries kind of undo them, which is not a big surprise because the Sounders were one of the most injury-riddled team in the league, and now he's going to Columbus, another decent team, and not to mention a team that I think this year should be a contender in the Eastern Conference, especially, you know, with Wilfred Nancy and with the quality of the squad that the Crew has. I think this is definitely good for Medranda joining from a team that, you know, the Sounders are still going to be a competitive team, but now they're going to be he's going to be joining another team that is going to be competitive. I don't think he's going to be complaining too much about that, and especially the Columbus Crew getting a very good defender and adding some more depth. That it feels like that's been one thing that they trying to do continuously after they had that hellish kind of injury crisis after they win the MLS Cup in 2021. Now, Atlanta United have signed former Toronto FC goalkeeper Quentin Westberg off of free agency. So obviously coming into this season, there was a question of the fact that, you know, for TFC, who is going to be the future goalkeeper for this team? Is it going to be Quentin Westberg, or is it going to be Alex Bono, or is it going to be somebody else? Well, it seems like TFC is going with option C as the answer, because they decided to get rid of both of their starting goalkeeper, or at least both of the goalkeeper that they try to maybe kind of put in. And it just kind of felt like it was a revolving door in terms of TFC goalkeeping situation, where it was 1 week Westberg and then 1 week Bono, and that now both of them, of course, are gone. It's going to be interesting to see that, you know, for TFC, they're probably going to start from scratch in terms of looking for their next goalkeeper. But in the case of him going to Atlanta United, I'm assuming he's probably going to be a backup, because, you know, Atlanta, it's kind of interesting because Atlanta, you know, they're probably going to get Brad Guzan back, but they also have that Gallardo, I think that's, what was that the name of their goalkeeper, and now they of course got Quentin Westberg. So Quentin Westberg could potentially be becoming third choice goalkeeper if that of course is the case. And, you know, while Westberg is a guy that, you know, I really think that he kind of definitely suffered a bit of a downfall, because he was a guy that was immense in a couple of years ago, considered one of the best goalkeeper in the league. But yeah, you know, with him not getting a lot of minutes and also dealt with some injury situation, he hasn't really been as good as what we see. Kind of almost like a shell of his old self in some. But as a backup goalkeeper, I think this is a good decent signing, and especially Atlanta United last season when they were scrambling to try to get a goalkeeper. And like Columbus, you know, they're so concerned about the injury crisis that they go through that they just want to sign as much depth in their team as possible, or at least as the roster allowed them to do, so that they at least have some good depth pieces going through the future. Now, NYCFC have signed defender Tony Alfaro from DC United. Now, obviously, this is no doubt just a depth signing, because I have a feeling NYCFC have already got some good center back, and they're going to continue to have a good decent center back partnership with Alexander Callens and Maxime Chenot. But getting Tony Alfaro, I know during his time with DC, it was definitely not great. I mean, especially in the last season where he was like, the thing about Tony Alfaro is that he had some promise when he came in with DC and broke through in the first team, but last season he was a bit of a traffic cone. I mean, he was a guy that was not a good defender whatsoever, and that it's interesting that NYCFC decided to pick up the scrap. Although again, they didn't really pay too much to get him, if anything, because I think they signed him off of free agency. But at least I think he could be a good utility player, is what I'm saying, and we'll see whether if he is going to get minutes, especially the fact that, again, I think he's going to be more used as a utility and depth piece for NYCFC than probably a guy that's going to be breaking into the starting 11. Now, speaking of defender, LAFC have acquired Honduran national team defender Daniel Maldonado on loan. Now, this clearly, I think, is another signing that it's not only just for depth pieces, but this is the Mamadou Fall kind of replacement. So, Mamadou Fall, obviously, I think he's still on loan right now with Villarreal, and most likely he's going to be sold off to the La Liga club. So they definitely need some depth pieces and some replacement. And from what I heard about Daniel Maldonado, he's definitely a decent player and could be a good depth piece for this LAFC team. So yeah, overall, I think this is a good signing for LAFC. And again, I think this is clearly a replacement for Mamadou Fall in that center back position. Now, moving on in terms of the next news and talk about some of the transfer rumors. So, Inter Miami is reported to sign Argentine striker Nicolas Stefanelli from, or actually not to Inter Miami. I actually wrote it twice there. Let me just get rid of this here. Yeah, when I wrote this, I was actually looking on the notes, and I probably accidentally wrote it twice there. But yeah, they're trying to sign him from Swedish side IEK. Now, we have seen before where players have come from the Swedish league that has come to MLS, and it's been kind of a mixed kind of bag. I mean, there's some players that came from the Swedish league that has turned out to do very well, and then there's some that they did not really do so well when they come to the Swedish league. And obviously this is definitely a signing for Inter Miami to maybe replace Gonzalo Higuain. I mean, I still think Leo Campana is probably going to be that guy that is going to be the main number 9, but I think this will definitely give him some competition, because Inter Miami, knowing the fact that they need to replace the quality that Higuain left to this team, they're going to hope that Nicolas Stefanelli will be the guy. Now, I haven't heard a lot about this guy and whether or not if he's going to be decent or not, but again, it's going to be a good competition between him and Campana to see who is going to be that number 9, or if Phil Neville desired to put 2 number 9s up front. Now, Orlando City is reported to agree a deal to sign Argentine winger Martin Ojeda from Godoy Cruz. Now, this is definitely a player that I've heard that there's a lot of good things says about him, and that there's actually some European club that is interested in terms of getting him from Argentina. And anytime when you have that going through, he is definitely a good player, and that I think Orlando City might have got another decent signing, and especially with the way that it seems like it's going to be a DP signing and that he's going to be the third designated player for Orlando City. They better hope that he of course work out, because so far in terms of the 2 DPs that Orlando City has, it's been kind of a mixed bag in the way that Facundo Torres has definitely worked out for Orlando City last season, but that is not the same case with Jean Cara, who, yes, Cara has scored goals for the team, but he has also so missed some big opportunity. And I would say in terms of Arjun Kara's season last year, it's kind of very similar to a season that Kasper Schmeichel had with the Philadelphia Union, where Schmeichel was scoring goals for the Union. He actually hit double digits score, but a lot of those was just kind of tap in and easy kind of chances, and also there's time that he missed some big chances, and that's kind of what Orlando City fans were very frustrated about Kara last season. He has so many times where he has been able to put away some of those, but not all of them. And that, as if you want a number 9 that can be lethal in front of goal, you gotta have to at least finish most of those chances, and that's exactly what Kara did not do so. Now, I've heard that maybe they might put him as a number 9 as well, because I think from what I heard, he can also play in that spot. But again, this is definitely a signing to continue to improve this Orlando City attack that they desperately need to improve, because last season it just did not work for this team. Like, there was time where they just looked very stale going forward on the attack. There was no attacking fruition whatsoever, and they're hoping bringing this guy, Martin Ojeda, would definitely be a difference maker, at least on the wing or even in the number 9 spot. Now, finally, moving into the last news of this news of the week, there is reports suggesting that San Diego Loyals could actually come to MLS as soon as 2024, and it's actually Landon Donovan's side that is going to be moving to MLS, and even Commissioner Don Gabber has approved this move according to this certain reports. Now, obviously, it is not confirmed that of course is the case, and that MLS have not said anything about whether or not if the Loyals will be the team that will be an expansion team coming into the league. I mean, we have heard a lot about MLS potentially coming to San Diego, and that they are going to be that 30th team, although we still don't know whether if it's going to be a brand new team or is it going to be the San Diego Loyals from the USL Championship. Like, I hope it's the San Diego Loyals, because I think they have one of the best logo in the USL Championship, and certainly one of the best jerseys in the USL Championship. Though I have a feeling they're just because they have a cool kind of logo doesn't mean they're probably going to stick with it, because I've seen before where a USL Championship team decided to come to MLS, they tend to change their logos a little bit, and sometimes they of course have worked out, but then at times it just looks not as good as they have in the USL Championship. But I think one important thing that at least hopefully San Diego Loyals can keep is the Loyals name. I really hope that they don't drop that name. I really don't hope they can just call themselves San Diego SC or San Diego City, because I think we can all agree we're tired of all those generic European names from a lot of these expansion teams, and I think it's about time we go back to the tradition of MLS, where in MLS you always get a team that has a nickname, and that I feel nowadays we're seeing less of that because of these expansion team coming into MLS going with their generic European name, even though I know they of course have their nicknames too. Obviously, a great example is Minnesota United. They're called the Loons, and that you notice I always mention Minnesota United, the Loons, because I just don't like the generic name that they have. I feel like they should have called themselves Minnesota Loons instead of just calling themselves Minnesota United when they came into the league. But like I said, with the San Diego Loyals, I hope they keep that name. And then also in terms of the stadium, I think they're going to play at Snapdragon Stadium. I mean, when that stadium was built for San Diego State, it wasn't just because they want to build a brand new facility for the university and for the football team, but it's also to try to attract an MLS team. And while Snapdragon Stadium is definitely not as when you compare it to some of these new venues in MLS, it's definitely not as good as we've seen in recent years. But I think it's definitely still considered a decent stadium, and especially the size of the stadium, 35,000. I can definitely see the Loyals have a way to fill up that stadium. I mean, San Diego is definitely a market that I think is untapped in terms of just a lot of good soccer culture, and that there's a lot of people there that likes the sport and have always been supporting the team just south of the border, that is Tijuana Cholos. But now the fact that the city of San Diego can get a professional team, and especially a team in MLS, I think that's going to be good. And again, I think it will be confirmed, even though this report's saying exactly the year. But I think it will be a matter of time before Don Gabber would make that announcement that San Diego will actually be that team. That will be the 30th team in MLS. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this news of the week. And as always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And also, if you hear some fireworks in the background, I do apologize if I maybe just kind of scare you with some fireworks going in the background, because after all, it is Christmas Eve. Some people decide to shoot off some illegal fireworks. As much as I hate it, it is what it is. But yeah, either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.